Like to welcome up now Emma Jenner and Daniel Clark. Emma is the unit matron at Salford Royal NHS Foundation Trust and was part of Wave 3. And Daniel is a volunteer trainer support for dialysis patients, again at Salford Royal Hospital. So welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Okay. So we're here today from Salford Royal. Our units comprise of 5 dialysis units across the north of Greater Manchester. We care for 396 in-centre patients, and we've previously been involved in shared care. We did shared care as part of a sequin for the trust probably about 5 years ago. This aspect of dialysis has dropped off due to it not being successfully maintained, so our shared care numbers reduced dramatically. It was recognised in the Renal Association guidelines in 2018 that it needed to improve because it was an integral aspect of haemodialysis care. In recognition of this, we assembled a team which was across 3 of our units and enrolled in the shared HD programme provided by these guys. So as managers, we went on the course in November 17, just so we had a bit of a broader knowledge so we could pass that on to our staff. And then since then, the staff have been going on the training courses. So as part of the collaborative, we had a launch day, and that was Monday the 30th of July. We decided to have a launch day across all the units so that everyone knew exactly what they were doing at the same time. So we decided to launch new bed allocations. This started with a bit of friction from some patients because they were so used to going in bed 1 and bed 2 and bed 3. And it was uproar that they had to go in bed 4. But they soon got used to it and understood why. Once it had established, it had a really positive response. We started working through the new handbook. So Michelle worked very closely with Sonia and Tanya in establishing that handbook and looking at feedback from the patients and what worked and what didn't work. And it's lovely to see today the final copy. It enabled us to assess the patients who were involved in shared care previously but had never really taken up the full advantage of it, and it gave us a starting tool for new patients. It also gave us an opportunity to identify who could be a peer support buddy. We were able to establish patient learning styles and recognise patients who may need that bit more one-to-one care. So between us, we developed a shared care poster for all the units. So between Daniel, myself and the other nurses, we came up with what we needed to advertise to our patients, what we felt was really important, and put some patient feedback on there. And importantly, gave Daniel's details. So Daniel was a transplant patient yourself, weren't you?
Yes.
And did dialysis a few years ago, and Daniel's now our main peer support. So the collaborative working across the units, we meet monthly to share our progress. One of our senior nurses, Tony, has developed a database which allows us to track exactly where our patients are and includes patients who've maybe dropped out of shared care for transplant, so that it doesn't look like all of a sudden we've got a big drop, but actually we've had 4 transplants. It's made a bit of a competition between the units, so healthy competitions in all of us. We always want to beat the others. So that's been really positive. And it's all on a graph, which you'll be able to see shortly. So empowering staff, they've been able to go on the Share HD course, and they've been to the Share HD Learn events, which has been so beneficial because we've been able to learn from all of you guys. So one of the things that we've managed to do is make a monthly staff goal, which we stole the idea from one of your teams at one of our share away days, and it's been fantastic. So we now have a staff and patient engagement board, including that staff monthly goal. So this is displayed almost on the entrance to the unit by the weighing scales, so everyone can see it, all the patients weigh, so we know they're looking at it. It's provided somewhere where the patients can let us know that they want to do shared care. So especially the evening patients, when there's less patients, less staff around, they might not feel they've got time to tell someone they'd like to be interested in shared care, so they can put their own initials on there. So for governance reasons, there's no full names and hospital numbers, it's just an initial and what shift you're on, because as nurses we know who you are. The staff goal has been interesting. It's worked and it hasn't. It's taken a lot of encouragement. Daniel's now started doing some work in the waiting room prior to the patients coming down. So the patients who do shared care already come down half an hour early, then the rest of the gang are still sat out there. So Daniel's been doing a lot of work going up there and teaching them things.
Now on to me. Hi, I'm Daniel. As Emma said, I've had a transplant of 10 years now. I started back at Salford Royal 5 years ago. My main duty really is to train the patients on how to do their own shared care, which is up to lining and priming the machine. After that, I hand it over to the nurse. I find as a patient volunteer, I can empathise with my patients. I can give them my stories. As you know, Sarah said before, when a patient comes to dialysis, it can be a scary concept. They don't know what's going to go on. I can go over and sit with the patient. I can talk to them. I can give tips and tricks on how to manage fluid, diet tips and tricks that I used to use when I were on dialysis myself. I like to empower my patients. I like to give them little rewards, certificates, little gifts, just for taking part in the shared care. It doesn't matter what stage you're at, what stage you want to go to, you're still taking your own control of that. So I give, no matter where you're up to, I give little gifts to my patients. I also, as a volunteer, I have the time to dedicate to the training, whereas as nurses know, you get dragged away for emergencies, you've got other patients, so you can't just stay with a patient and do all the training, whereas I can come in, I can sit with one-to-one with a patient, I can teach them step by step what they need to learn. I also can mediate between patients, because as a patient, you don't always listen to a nurse. You sit there and it goes in one ear and out the other. You have a tendency to say, if someone says you're going to do this, you don't want to be told you're going to do it. You want to choose to do it yourself. So I can, if there's a bit of tension between the nurse and staff, I can go in, I can sit and talk to the patient, try and find out what the problems are, which they probably wouldn't tell a nurse when they tell another patient. So then I can then give them my opinion, give them my tips on how to overcome the problems they might be facing. So that is my role as a volunteer at the hospital.
So Daniel's invaluable to our team, and we couldn't do it without him. And like the gifts that Daniel was talking about, so we had pens made which said Salford Unit Nursing Team, and the patients had them, so they felt they were part of that team, which they really liked. And some of the pictures here are some of our patients that Daniel comes in to see. So we have a mixture of beds and chairs so that all our patients are able to do it. So one lady's actually hoisted from her chair, so she does everything from the bed, and they can do everything. They're fabulous, fabulous people. So the two main changes that we established was bay working. So the way that our unit is set up is perfect for bay working. It's kind of set into 3 sections. It's been provided with a simple visual allocation of where the patients are. It's got big letters saying shared care, which is great. The beds and chairs face each other, so they get that sense of community and they're all looking at each other and helping each other. It works for one-to-one training as well, because you can still keep your eye on your other patients while you're with somebody else. And that's now established at all 3 units, Bolton, Wigan and Salford. Bolton is U-shaped, so we had to think outside the box a little bit. So they've used an end of the U as their bay and used a wall at the end as a communication board. Then the second change we had was shared care buddies. So with Daniel's lead, we established who was the most competent out of our patients. Once they'd been signed off using Tanya's shared care handbook, they were then assisting other patients, and that's enabled a great community feel within the bay. They assist in the teaching and assist with lining and priming and things like that. We've had very positive feedback from other patients about this. Like Daniel was saying, it's great to hear it from another patient who's going through it at the same time. We currently have 2 shared care buddies at Salford, and Wigan and Bolton have identified prospective buddies. So some patient feedback, sorry, it's quite small, but basically they've said it feels more homely, less clinical, It's better feedback and better communication with the nurses. Gave them a sense of purpose again, because they were just a body coming in for dialysis and going out again, whereas now they've actually got a reason to be there, which I thought was really powerful. And then data. We've all got data. So the top slide is where we started off in June when we started measuring our data. Salford had 10 patients who were doing some elements of shared care. Bolton and Wigan had none. We're now at 25 at Salford, 18 at Bolton and 16 at Wigan, which equates to 24%, 19% and 25% of our in-centre haemodialysis patients. And that the bottom one is just a split of how many patients are in-centre and how many patients are shared care, so you can see the difference in amounts at the satellite units. That's it, thank you.